John? John?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Jude.
Afternoon.
Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 5 o'clock, and today is August the 8th, 2022. And we do seem to have a quorum. Any public comments? No? And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the consent agenda items. Any questions on any of the items?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we're going to go to the items for individual consideration. Number one will be the general manager's report.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, we've got a few items. The board calendar's in your packet. The only holiday coming up is Labor Day. Hard to believe it's going to be September pretty quick here. We have the financial report, the engineering and legal expense report, the city capital work order report for June, and then we'll talk a little bit on the drought. I think it's good that we have a presentation from Renee and Ryan on what we're seeing and what things to anticipate here. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on item E tonight if we can. So we'll start off with the financial report. Monica? Certainly. Sitting in for Mike.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Be presenting the year-to-date financials as of June 30th, 2022. And we'll be looking at the statement of revenues, expenses, and charges, changes in net position. If you look at the far right column, the year-to-date numbers. Sales and service charges of $191,078,382, less rate stabilization and utility service to the city of Brownsville, leave us total operating revenues of $173,716,180. From that, we deduct our total operating expenses of $148,986,094, which leaves us operating income of $24,730,086. We then have our non-operating expenses, which total $18,745,890, leaving us income before capital contributions of $5,984,196. We then have capital contributions of $3,625,364, giving us a change in net position of $9,609,560. When added to the net position at the beginning of the year of $411,306,272, we have a net position of $420,915,832. Looking at the flow of funds statement, we see that we generated sufficient surplus of $35,772,985. There on line 21 to cover our transfers out to our operating subaccount for the fuel adjustment in the amount of $11,395,306. The improvement fund for CIP funding of $5,542,043, and the scheduled commercial paper defeasance of $1,333,332, which left us a surplus revenue of $9,237,442. That's it for the financials. Are there any questions?
No questions.
Moving on to the engineering fees, we see that we had a budget of $1,234,349. I'm sorry, a budget of $1,480,043,643. We have year-to-date spending of $1,234,349. Excuse me. Year-to-date spending of $193,017, leaving an available balance of $1,234,349. We have more than sufficient budget to carry us through the rest of the fiscal year on the engineering fees. The next item, the next report is on the legal fees. We do have an amended budget. Our year-to-date actuals is $1,287,130,000, which leaves us an available balance of $238,616. So we are seeing increases in legal fees this year, legal expenses. So we are seeing the need. We have an item later on in the agenda for requesting an adjustment to the budget for legal fees. And we do have the detail for you by legal firm and the matters, the different items that the legal fees cover. And then the third item is our capital work orders for the city of Brownsville. Our year-to-date for 2022, they've requested authorization for $131,446. And the expenditures incurred against those projects year-to-date is $29,213. Any questions on any of those items?
I do have a question on the engineering fees. We still have about $1 million left there. Are you anticipating a surplus? I'm assuming you are. And if so, what's going to happen to that money?
That money will flow through into the improvement fund surplus at the end of the year.
Okay. All right.
It'll
Thank you.
carry over to subsequent years.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to the drought update.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name's René Mariscal. I'm the Water Resource Manager for the utility. Just a quick update on our current drought conditions. We'll talk a little bit about how the drought is impacting our water supply. And then most importantly, what we're doing, what our efforts are to help curtail some of that demand. So little on the drought, just a little history on the drought. Here's some Texas droughts. Here are some significant droughts that I pulled from the Texas Water Resource Institute. First recorded drought dates back to 1870. Again, these are just in Texas. 1950 to 57, the drought of record. And quite frankly, it's as a result of this period that a lot of our current modern water management planning kicked off from the 50s. The Texas Water Development Board was created really as a result of this drought. And then a lot of the dams were built here in Texas after that drought, about 62 dams in Texas. 1998 through 2002, another drought. This is when the river ceased to flow into the Gulf. And then some of 2010 and 11, again, another really hot period. And now something that we've seen, really quite frankly, this is about last year, just a really dry trend, specifically how it relates to our water supply. A lot of other droughts, these are just two more significant ones. Clearly, there's been droughts before 1870, and you'll see a historical chart that we have here just to demonstrate that. Photos on the right are that's our river intake. One on the upper right is a river intake, and a lot like what it looks like right now. The one below is probably a 2012 photo, and that's our intake just at the bottom there. That's a rock weir that helps slow down that flow and detain some of that water for our intakes, for our pump intakes. The watershed, this is the Rio Grande watershed. Here for us, for the water supply, these two dams, we'll talk about our water stages, our drought contingency plan stages. And so it's the measurement of the lake levels at both Amistad and Falcon that we use. And quite frankly, the majority of the municipalities use to determine the different stage levels in their plants. These two dams, Falcon Dam 1954, Amistad at 1969, these are the dams that when we talk about the different stages, we'll talk about the combined storage in these two dams. And if you look at the watershed there, for us, way at the tail end, the travel time from Falcon Dam to us is about 6 to 7 days. So when we're ordering water for our river intake, our pumps, we're ordering it 7 days in advance. So quite frankly, we'll order water on a Monday for the following Monday. So we're doing a little bit of forecasting. We check with our plants to see what the demand is at that time. Because clearly it's going to vary, summers to winter. And so we're placing these orders in advance, 7 days in advance. The International Boundary Water Commission is the entity that, regulates that water or that manages that water. This International Boundary Water Commission manages the Rio Grande River water for both countries. So we also have to rely on, keeping in mind that Mexico's also withdrawing water from these dams at the same time that we are. So we work with the International Boundary Water Commission along with the TCEQ Rio Grande Water Master. So the official lake levels at Amistad and Falcon, US combined, is at 21.94%. That's as of July 30th. That's the most recent update that we have. And again, that's provided by the IBWC via the to the TCQ and then reported to the municipalities, because that's the latest reading that we have. As of July 30th, quite frankly, I thought we might have a new update now. We get these from the IBWC. Sometimes it's once a week and twice a week, every other week. So it varies. But what they do is IBWC staff from the Mexican side and the US, they do their water accounting. And once they agree on the values, they'll send us that notification. When compared to last year, July 30th, 2021, those lake levels were at 40%. So just to give you a comparison from last year to this year. This is that historical graph. What you're looking at here is the Amistad and Falcon lake levels over several years, dating back to, this is 1998, I believe. And so what you see in blue are the lake levels, the US combined storage in blue. The red is the Mexican storage for Mexico at both Amistad and Falcon combined. Here now at 2022, we're at that 21.9%. And if you were to take a look back and just go back, back to early 2000s was the last time we were at the Amistad and Falcon lake levels were where they're at now. In 1998, you'll see that they dropped below the 20%. That's the last time we implemented our stage 2 from our drought plan. This is just looking at just a few months. I wanted to capture just here more recently where we're at, which is just going back from March 19th to now, to the last reading that we received, the July 30th. Just in this few months, you'll see that drop of about 14%. And quite frankly, in the last week, the 1 week drop is, we were looking at about a 1% drop. That's assuming, no rain, current conditions, no inflows into the river, the watershed. Yeah, we're seeing about a % drop roughly per week. So a little bit about the drought response stages. We implemented, we have a water conservation and drought contingency plan that was adopted by the board in the last one was 2019. I think it was April of 2019 where the board adopted this plan. And we update this plan every 5 years. We provide this plan to Region M and to the Texas Water Development Board. And all the municipalities do this. Our next plan is due here in 2023. So we're already starting to at least begin those discussions on looking at this plan and updating it. The plan is part of city ordinance. It's a 2006 city ordinance, section 102 of the current of the city ordinance. The plan was actually the very first plan for PUB. We began in like 1984, roughly, and from there, there's been amendments and changes to the plan. The one that's adopted by city ordinance is 2006. So in our plan, our drought contingency plan, we have different stages as far as water restrictions. Our stage 1 is our voluntary stage. This kicks off every May 1st. And we usually end it on September 30th. And it's just a voluntary stage where we ask the community to begin to conserve water. We've been in below 51, quite frankly, since last year. So essentially, we've been in stage one for quite some time. I believe it was about April of last year that we reached that 51%. So we've been in stage one, again, just voluntary. And our communication staff will talk about, how we notify the public. So we're now in stage two. And stage two, we begin these restrictions, right? Once the lake levels, the combined lake levels reach 25%, that's when we begin these restrictions. A lot of the communities, other cities as well, a lot of them are in stage two. There may be a few that are stage three. But for the most part, the majority are, similar to us, where we use a 25% level as our trigger, as one of our triggers for stage two. Stage three, that's when the lake levels reach 15%. So that's, clearly we're not there yet. And obviously our restrictions for stage two, the idea there is to help curtail demand so that it prolongs, and not just us, clearly the rest of the region south of these dams, to help curtail that demand so that it, we don't get to stage three, or at least delay stage three. These are just the highlights of the stage two restrictions. It's just these five. A lot of detail within each of them. Landscaping, this is irrigation, landscaping, and that's twice a week, depending on the address, and the specific periods. Okay, and all this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute, but these are the primary restrictions. Washing of motor vehicles prohibited, except on certain days and times. The golf courses have to provide a water management plan where they detail, when it is they're going to water, what it is they're watering. So we've already reached out to the golf courses, and they've provided us with some draft plans that we're currently reviewing. And then restaurants prohibited from serving water to customers unless requested. This is for the most part standard practice nowadays, but excuse me, same thing there. Outreach effort to ensure that everybody's complying. And then non-essential water use is prohibited. And this is more for like just washing walkways, sidewalks, et cetera. So water rights. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting just earlier today with Judge Trevino, the Cameron County Office of Emergency Management, with Judge Trevino, where a lot of the irrigators were there, different municipalities were there, and one of the big discussions was water rights. Whether or not cities have ample water rights, for their municipalities. And for the most part, just like us, we certainly have ample water rights. If you take a look at this graph here, the graph here in yellow is how much we diverted in acre feet over the last several years, whereas our availability, water rights that we own is this line in red. So we have a nice little buffer in water rights, but clearly the issue is not so much our water rights, but it's more of the water availability down the river. But with the drought, what will happen is that buffer that we have will probably end up requiring, we'll have to use a little more because we're going to require that to get the water down to us, especially if the irrigators, if there's less water down the river because they're starting to curtail irrigators. So less water down the river. Thus, we may have to start requesting just a little more water to ensure that our water makes it all the way down to us. But for the most part, if you look at there at 2021, I think that was about 59% that we used of our water rights. And this is just our municipal water rights. And then lastly, this is the seasonal outlook. This was released here about a week ago. And this is from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is just a 3-month outlook. And as you'll see, our area is still, drought persists, at least for the immediate next quarter, next 3 months. So it's definitely something that, the community, a lot of the local municipalities, there's clearly concern. And so for the immediate future, we need to, on our end, certainly do our outreach to ensure that we're, that demand is dropping. Okay, so with that, we'll jump into a little bit about what we're doing. We implemented stage 2 here on the 29th, and I'll let Ryan discuss our efforts.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is Ryan Greenfeld. I'm the Communications and Public Relations Manager. As Renee mentioned, I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about the response that we're trying to do as far as communication goes. One of the first things that we did, especially leading into the drought, was to start this water conservation team. One of the first really big things for communication is to make sure that we're communicating internally so that we know here at BPUB everything that's going on with other departments, with other personnel. So to that end, as members of this team, we have people from a lot of diverse departments. So you have the Communications and Administrative Services, Communications and Public Relations, which I'm a part of, Digital Information Platforms, that includes things like the website. They also do a lot of work with social media as well. We've been working closely with our health and safety team. They are also helping to coordinate going out and notifying if there are any warnings for violations. We've also been working closely with key accounts. It's important that our key accounts, many of them are among the largest consumers. We want to make sure that they are aware of what's going on, what's going on, and some ways that they can conserve their own usage. Of course, we're working very closely with customer service. They're kind of on the front lines, especially when it comes to speaking directly to customers. We have our Energy Efficiency and Conservation Coordinator. That would be Alex. His title sounds very energy-centric, but he also does a lot of work with water as well. We're also working with our operational support services. They're right out there in the field doing work. Environmental services, our finance team, the analytical lab, and then we are also working with the City of Brownsville Emergency Management, making sure that they're looped in and that they know exactly what's going on and are up to date with the latest news. A little bit of the communication that we've done with the start of stage 2. We also wanted to kick off a public information campaign. As part of that, we did send out a press release announcing the beginning of stage 2. We've been very active with media interviews. The media has been very responsive with not just the press release that we've sent out, but a lot of the communications that we've done on social media and other places. In fact, just as recently as today, we spoke to KRGB about some of the drought issues that we're facing. We're also making sure to take on some of the traditional advertising outlets. So we are still doing print advertising in the Herald, but we are also, we've been in discussions with them and are looking at this week kicking off a digital campaign as well. So that way we are taking care of not only traditional media, but trying to tap into more, I guess, what you would refer to as maybe new media as well. In addition, we've also been very active in our own social media channels, making sure to remind people about stage 2, about the restrictions that we are currently in, and also more than anything, making sure to spread some tips about ways that they can conserve in their home and contribute. The door hangers, we are picking up this week, and that's going to be a part of our response when we receive reports about possible violations of stage 2 restrictions. This will have some information specific about stage 2, about the specific restrictions that we're in, and it gives people the chance that they can just put it on the door and it can serve as a reminder for them. And that way, if they aren't aware, that way they can better understand what's going on. Those door hangers, along with the ad in the Herald and the press release, were done in English and in Spanish. And we have also been doing interviews in English and in Spanish as well. But I think one of the big emphasis that we would like to have would be for our BPUB website. We've really tried to set this up as kind of a one-stop shop for people to go to with any kind of questions that they might have, or if they just need a little bit of clarification about things. The idea is they can go there, they can see conservation tips, they can see exactly where we are as far as what stage we're in, what restrictions are included in there. There's also a link to view the entire drought contingency plan. We know some people might be interested to understand a little bit more of the background or the reasoning that goes behind this plan. Likewise, they might be interested in looking forward to see what could happen in stage 3 or stage 4. So this gives them that opportunity if they wish. Also, we have a contact form that's there to in case there's something that maybe, again, you're a little bit unclear about, even looking at the pages, maybe you're not sure. You can send a question. It gets routed to our subject matter experts, and we've been active in either emailing back or in some cases calling those people back and making sure that that they understand fully about stage 2. There's also on there a form to report violations. So you might see a business or a neighbor that is doing something that you know is against the current restrictions, and it gives you the opportunity to be able to send something in. You can send that anonymously as well. And as part of stage 2, there is the allowance for a variance if you have a new planting, maybe new grass in there. The opportunity is to apply for the variance, and if you are approved, then it's 4 weeks of not being under the stage 2 restrictions for that for the new planting. After that, you can apply for one more 4-week period. So it would be a total possibility of 8 weeks. That variance request form is on our website as well. One other thing I did forget to mention, but I do think it's important too, is also some of what we're doing internally. We are conducting trainings for all BPUB employees about the drought contingency plan. We know that a lot of times it's, it should almost refer to them as unofficial ambassadors that can do a lot of good. You know, I'm sure a lot of people here, employees here can attest that there might be something going on and they end up having a neighbor or a friend or acquaintance come up and say, hey, you know, I know, don't you work at PUB? You know, what about this? Or did you hear about this? That way people, the other employees have a better understanding about it. And if they get questions in the community, they are going to be more informed and feel more secure in being able to answer those questions. And with that, did any of y'all have any questions for either myself or Mr. Mariscal?
Question?
Just out of curiosity, who determines the merits on the variance?
That is under, I believe it's Vicente, correct?
So it's just internal, somebody internally approves it?
Correct.
Can I review those as well? Once they make a recommendation, I'll take a look at it and okay that.
Ryan, just a quick question, or maybe educate me. When y'all implement these restriction plans, does PB have a method of monitoring whether or not water usage is there's less water being used, or?
I think, I don't know if Renee would have a better response, but I think that a lot of that is, we'll see kind of at the end of the month or toward, as we are going and have the meter readers going out, checking meters for the start of new cycles. We'll be able to have a better idea, I think, then how much our efforts are improving the situation.
Thank you.
I was out yesterday morning running out in some neighborhoods, and there are some resakas that are really dried up bad.
Yeah, I think the couple things on that is one, we've stopped putting water in the resakas because we don't have any surplus water. We'd have to take firm water, our firm water rights to put those in there. And so we're trying to limit that right now of doing it. Normally, if we have excess water, we have a surplus water right permit and we can pump. There's been no surplus water rights permit allowance.
Westlake, the subdivision
Yeah.
Westlake out there, they've got 3 resakas out there and they're
Yeah.
really dried up. I mean, really.
Yeah, and we're gonna look at that and see if we can't move some water, but we'd be pulling our municipal water for that. And right now, we have a pipeline that connects both water plants, so we can pipe water from the reservoir to the plants where we don't use the Resaka unless there's an emergency. But we are looking at maybe keeping a couple of the major Resakas full. We can't. Again,
When did we stop pumping into the resorts?
it's been a couple of months, probably. We stopped.
And what was that? What was the tripwire for that date?
No surplus water.
No surplus water?
Yeah, there's no
Right, but,
1838 water coming down the river that
and we were notified of that and,
we check every day.
okay.
So we can put some more in there. It's just we're gonna have to call for it and take it out
And
of
that comes out of our excess water right that we saw earlier?
comes out of,
Correct.
yes. Our municipals.
Are you going to speak later about capacities of the treatment plants and, okay.
Yeah. One thing, there was been some discussion of the board of our conservation plan and can it be updated? Can it be modified before the time frame? And the answer is yes, we can. We just need to make those modifications, agree on them, and have a public hearing at the city commission and then notify TCEQ. So if there is some changes, particularly in the, I don't think really we need any on 2, but in stage 3, we need to be working on those now. Stage 3 gets pretty important.
And I did mention something about that, John, because I did have a conversation with Marilyn last week, and I did read the drought contingency plan. I saw that there's a glaring issue there, which the public's already picked up on. I don't know if they know it yet, but I know that they ask a lot. But there's no restriction for commercial car washes. And there's very clearly language that does not restrict commercial car washes in our plan. And being that we have quite a few that are online now, that's going to become an issue if we do get to 15%. I've already kind of asked the question to our city department whether any of these car washes are using, or if they have any sort of if they recycle water. And I think maybe at least one does. And I'm waiting to get information on who it is that does, but that might be something to consider as far as the restrictions if we get to that point. But I do think that that's something that needs to be looked at. I don't know what a typical car wash like this consumes. You know that. But I think that's something we should get out ahead of.
Yeah, our pre-treatment department has a list of all the car washes and we can check each one to see if they're recycled or not and how much the usage is by the meters.
Yeah, can
But
we
it-
quickly find that out?
We have to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But yeah,
Because
I
that
think
is
it
a
should be
significant water user.
And at the very least, it's a perceived significant water user. So I think you had the data or stats to back that up, I'm assuming. If not, I mean,
Well-
I'm sure we'd like to know it.
That would be one area in the plan that we need to take a look at. There's surcharges in the plan that need to be studied on impacts for excessive use, what that means to the customer. And anything else a board member consider, or mayor, that you want to consider amending, we can do that.
Madam Chair, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Coming back to Art's question about data on how successful we're being, are we looking at that already? As far
We
as
should look at our
what we're seeing
yeah,
reduction
treatment
demand?
capacity versus demand.
I'm sorry?
We should be looking at it every day on capacity versus demand.
Right, and do we have that data?
I believe that water plants do, yes. I don't know if we're going to see anything that quick, but.
Right, but we need to see. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We need to see the data and then make that determination.
And that'll be factored into, how we're, our
What's the
measurement
earliest we can see that data of the board?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
I mean, we'll know.
That'd be
Plants
great.
know
And we could also look at as soon as possible what percentage, and I don't mean to pick on the car washes, but the mayor's right and folks are right. I mean, there's a lot of them now. And if our intent was to curtail car washing, whether it's private or commercial, we have to make that decision. We have to base that on data, in my opinion. And without data, then the claims of being picked on start to come around. But if they're a significant user, and that's beyond perception, then I think we really need to look at that as quickly as possible. And we need to be fair, but we need to come up with something. And I think all of these questions are going to be helped with our smart meters, right?
Yes.
Significantly. So hope is on the way as far as that's concerned, but for now, we're still limping along with looking at
Right.
post-use data instead of real-time data.
Right.
And that's going to really, I think as soon as those start getting put in, we really need to come back to these water restriction issues and see how we can squeeze out the most water in the long run and sustain our water availability.
Right. The other thing I want to bring up, and I know Dr. Benavides is the president of Southmost Regional Water Authority, and we've had this discussion, is 30% of our water comes out of Southmost, and it's not dependent, it's not impacted by the drought in any way, shape, or form. It's a aquifer,
The desal plant.
the desal.
The desal plant.
Yeah. And that can be expanded from 10 MGD to 20 MGD at the current location. It'll take wells, it'll take another ground storage tank, it'll take some high service pumps, some piping, but that can be done, I say relatively quickly, within 2 years, 12 to 18 months probably. The only delays we're finding now is you can't get the pumps. There's a long lead time on pumps, lead time on membranes. Well pumps, there's a long lead time, so. But if we could get that plant to 20 MGD, that's kind of our average daily right now for the city. And we could be pretty darn good shape. So we're pushing for the consultant that designed and built that plant to provide us that information quickly within the next couple of weeks and make a decision to, I would think, again, unless we get a major hurricane or an event that fills those reservoirs by the end of this year, to start on expanding that plant.
Is there an estimated cost on that, John? I'm just
No, I mean, I'm estimating 30 or $40 million
to add the 10 MGDs.
in
And-
today's dollars.
And if I can add, John, Madam Chair, as far as the SRWA meetings, we also directed staff to look at whatever type of grants we can, emergency grants and others. There should be, hopefully, some deep pockets out there right now with some money earmarked.
Yeah, and
Not
I
the right
think-
word to use, sorry.
I
Money
think-
put aside for these dry days. So I think if the time is right, and we also position ourselves as far as a forward-thinking community in the valley, as potentially one of the most drought-protected and drought-resilient cities in South Texas, if we can make this happen. We already stand in somewhat good position, but I don't want to take away any of that momentum. But having a plant that relies on desalinated groundwater that can produce almost 50% or so or more,
Or close-
potentially close to
More,
full, yeah. If we right now, we're looking at 25% of our water supply. treated water supply is coming from that plant. So we have a great asset that was put in place 20 years ago. And I think it's time that I think the time is right to strike for expansion.
Yeah, even if we were to get shovel ready and get our plans and specs together and the reservoirs fill up, it'd still be worth us being ready. As Dr. Benavides said, if the state or the federal government comes in and says we have grant funding to build it, we can build it quick. I mean, I think that we should pursue that right away and get in position to activate that and move quickly on it.
If I can add one more thing, our PR department, I think, really needs to be out on that right now. I've just had random anecdotal communications with 5 of my either colleagues or neighbors. And of those 5, only one knew about our desal plant.
Okay.
And I think something we add to that flyer is that, something like that saying, hey, part of your water is coming from desalinated groundwater, which is relatively not subject to these types of restrictions. And I think that can set some, hopefully set the table for support for this measure.
Yeah, we did an extensive, the Herald did an extensive study on, or report on that a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And
I know the data's out there. It's just people
we may need to get it to the other,
a lot of people don't really grasp it, or see it, and they don't really pay
Yeah.
enough attention, to water until it's not around or there's too much.
Right.
As you kind of mentioned, this is a good opportunity because people are paying attention more to water issues right now. So we have more attention now.
Yeah, unfortunately, all the funding right now is in flood protection because of the last several years before that, and now we always seem to be chasing our tail that way. But
I do like the using employees or offering to have employees serve as ambassadors. Although in today's climate, I don't know how many people are going to claim they work for PUB. But yeah, I think that's always good. And to have the employees educated on the plan, I think is helpful. Because people do ask, they know, where people work and they'll ask these questions. So I think that's good.
well, I think we're kind of work with the public. And if we see something, we just want to explain to them the situation and help them and, comply. And the ones I've talked to are wanting to do that. I'm seeing it already. Yet there's still quite a few people that say it always rains in the fall and don't worry about it. And that, we can't do that. I mean, we're too far gone with this right now, the way these reservoirs are. It's not good.
So if we don't get any rain, any substantial rain, when do you think that we might have to go into stage 3?
Well, 1% a week, we're going down.
that's the trend right now.
So 1% to get from 21 to 15 is end of August, September.
And Mayor, how are we working together with PUB and the city to do a coordinated effort to,
Coordinate a rain dance? No, but what do you mean coordinate effort?
coordinate effort to advise the people, the citizens, so what?
Well, like Ryan mentioned, I know that our emergency management department is working very closely with PUB. We are also, I know that y'all have worked with our PR team as well, our communications. We have issued joint press releases, and the city also is publishing a lot of this on its own social media and website as well. So it's really cross collaboration, a lot of cross promotion. And then also I think that we also need to start kind of getting out ahead of what stage 3 might look like. And if there's anything that needs to be fixed now, I think we need to get that out on the city agenda pretty quickly.
Mayor, I'd like to come down and make this presentation at the next city meeting
That'd be great.
and give the update. And then have a regular meeting, I think, with the commission.
I think
we're going to need it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think having some sort of summary on this is helpful to the commission for sure.
And looking at these forecasts are not very reliable, but if you look at the medium range forecast for the next 3 months, we might get some rain. But up the watershed, it
Right.
doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of rain. And so that's going to be our worst case scenario because that doesn't help us. It does help our irrigation and it does help some sectors, but as far as treated water, rain on Brownsville doesn't help us because we get a lot of water from the river, which gets it from upstream. And again, that puts our PUB staff in a terrible position. I mean, I don't know if this is going to happen, but if we do get a rainy September, but it's only here and not up the way, these drought restrictions will remain. And we really got to get out in front of that PR and education wise and say, this is why we're doing what we're doing.
I agree. I think it's really important to get out there and advise the public as much as we can, by every means that we can. And if for some reason we get a good hurricane, or not that we want it, or a tropical storm, and it helps us out, then we'll be better prepared for the next time. I think we need to attack it in every which way possible.
We have had good success, as you could say, leaning on some of our partners, like the mayor mentioned. The city has, we've worked closely with the city. We also have been working closely with KXIQ so that we have some radio representation as well. The Brownsville Chamber of Commerce has done a great job relaying information. And then this Saturday, we were at the Gladys Porter Zoo for Kids Appreciation Day. We were able to pass out flyers there. I left a few hundred flyers also there so that they can pass them out to people who come in. And we are planning on attending the Brownsville Appreciation Days at the Gladys Porter Zoo, which is scheduled for next month. We're, to your point, trying to look for those opportunities to be able to go where people are and be able to talk to them about this.
I just wanted to also add that I've also engaged some of the local civic organizations, some of the Rotary clubs, to try and get on their presentation and to provide a little bit of the awareness, so that way everybody's aware of the conditions that we're at, so that way any misconceptions or anybody, oh, it's going to rain in the fall, and to really everybody in the community understands that this is critical levels that we haven't reached in a very long time, and that yes, we're a little bit better shape than some of our friends in the Upper Valley. There's some communities that have run out of water right now, and they're having issues, emergency pipes. They're putting communities pipelines from lake to lakes in other parts of the state. And so those are the things to come for this community if we don't, do something and do the best that we can to conserve as much as we can, and all of us do our part.
Are we reaching out to Rotary clubs?
I have.
Yeah. Okay, you have,
Yes.
okay, good. And
I haven't reached out to all of them yet, but there's just, yes.
darn 5 Rotary clubs.
No, there's more than that. Yes. They're just opening up everywhere now.
Yeah.
But I know
Been involved.
I
So
have to compliment Estrella. Is she here? Is that you back there? I didn't recognize you. But I've been calling on her, and she can tell you, I think I'm going to be the rat patrol, because I'm calling and I'm giving addresses, and because I think it's important, that people, and thank you for taking my calls, Estrella. And, giving her the addresses in our neighborhood. We have, I go to lunch at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's people watering
Right.
at that time. I mean, and the sun is in the hottest of the afternoon. I don't know why they think that water's going to do any good to the grass. But I am doing my job as a citizen of our community. And I am telling.
We appreciate that.
Well, I am, because I believe that, we all have to come together. It's what's in the best interest for our community. And we see something, we need to call it in and let people know, that they're doing, we really have to help each other out.
Any flyers or information, I'll be glad to post them up at the restaurant or the bank, whatever. To
Yes.
as people come
Yeah,
in.
that'd be great. There's a lot of traffic there. Be perfect.
Okay.
We'll be in touch.
All righty. Any other questions?
One more question, John. I was, our CAFR shows El Jardín Water Supply, Brownsville ISD, the Port of Brownsville, and UTB TSC is our top water consumers.
Right.
10% of our water consumption is those 4. Or do we have conversations with those with those entities specifically to, I know we can't monitor the entire city on a daily basis, but are we doing anything to
Yeah.
work with those 4 entities?
We notify them, and normally they kind of follow in the past our plan of it, but I don't know that for sure, but I know El Jardín used to always implement their state, because they used, I think, our plan and follow our plan for their customers. So we'll continue to do that with,
Well,
the large.
it may be tough to monitor the entire city, especially because we don't have AMI yet, but if we could maybe focus on.
at least reach
some of
out to
those.
them and
Yeah,
They're aware of it.
We did have our key accounts department reach out to our top water users and evaluate what the stage 2, but they're also in the process of looking what the stage 3 restrictions are in the industries for our top users. And so we'll give a report on some of the information that we've obtained or feedback from them at the next meeting.
Any other questions? Thank you.
No, we spent a little more time, but I think this is going to be a
Oh, it's very
front
important.
and center unless we get some big rain, which we hope we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
This
that's
time-
all in my report.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, we're going to go with item number 2 is consideration and possible action to establish an other post-employment benefit trust with an initial contribution of 13,306,413 and authorize the issuance of a request for proposal for a plan administrator.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. We did present this information to the Finance Committee back in April. And so this is something that the city of Brownsville recently implemented. Well, in 2020, the city of Brownsville established an OPEB trust. We have an outstanding OPEB liability, and by establishing this trust, it will reduce the amount of our liability, and we'll see a greater return, greater discount rate. It'll reduce the liability, and we will then be able to fund the premiums through the trust. So it is a very well-diversified, low-risk investment pool similar to TMRS. So we've been considering this. We currently are on a pay-as-you-go basis on our retiree health insurance premiums. We have 65 current retirees, and we have another 51 that are eligible to retire, and we would be paying their health insurance benefits until the age of 65. So we see those costs going up, and the establishment of the OPEB trust would be a way to offset those rising healthcare costs. So we currently have 13 million available in our OPEB trust funds that we can contribute to this. And the Finance Committee did recommend that we go out for an RFP for a plan administrator. The city, the firm that is the plan administrator for the city did make a presentation to the Finance Committee back in April. And they did have a proposal for us, but the preference from the Finance Committee was to go out for RFPs for that plan administrator. And so this item is for the board to authorize. So I can read the recommended action. VPUB staff recommends approval to establish and make the first contribution of 13,306,413 to an irrevocable trust for the pre-funding of other post-employment benefits, and to authorize staff to issue an RFP for a plan administrator. I don't know if Mr. Sampaio, if anybody has any
No, I think you
questions or-
summarized it well. It was, again, this was something that the city initiated, I think, a year or two ago. It was presented to the Finance Committee a couple of weeks ago. Our only recommendation was to consider putting out the RFP so that we could see multiple proposals, including from the firm that presented, so that the board could then select the firm that it thought did the best job of stewarding those funds for our employees.
And staff is working currently on developing that RFP.
I will say the city situation was pretty dire. Our OPEB liability going forward it's almost unsustainable to a point where unfortunately we had to also start to curtail benefits for future employees because it was just, I mean, think about it almost as like what we hear about the U.S. government social security system, how they have considered moving back the age. Our OPEB liability was pretty bad. So unfortunately, we had to take that drastic step of curtailing some benefits for future employees, not current employees, but future ones. But I think it's a great step. I mean, our OPEB contribution, I think as a city was like $1 million or a little bit more. I think $1 million first year. I can't remember what it was this past year, but starting off with 13 million is great. I think it's a fantastic move. Thanks.
Are there any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. This time, we're going to go to item number 3, which is discussion on the quarterly investment activity report for period ended June the 30th, 2022 pursuant to Chapter 2256.023 of the Public Funds Investment Act.
Good evening, Madam Chair, and members of the board. My name is Jorge Santillan, Treasury Manager. And in accordance with Chapter 2256, Section 23 of the Public Funds Investment Act, we present the investment report for the quarter ended June 30, 2022. There's no action on this item. We're going to look on the, this is the presentation on your agenda packet. And the total market value, portfolio market value, 213.4 million. And the asset allocation as follows: investment pools, 70%, U.S. Treasury notes and bills, 23%, certificates of deposit, 1%, and bank deposits, 6%. Some statistics, the weighted average yield, 1.18%. That's an 82 basis point increase from prior quarter. And the weighted average maturity, 16 days. Here we have the yield summary by investment type or security. Looking at the first, at the last column, first we have the Treasuries notes and bills with the yield ranging from 0.48% to 1.58%. We have the bank deposits, a yield of 0.32%. Investment pools are yield ranging from 1.13% to 1.48%, and then the certificate of deposit, 0.59 basis percent and 1.59%. Total market value, 213,365,497. Again, the yield, 1.18%. Continue on the next slide. Here we have a comparison of the net yield comparing to the, here we have the PPUV yield to maturity, 1.18%. That's 6 basis points below the S&P pool index, but 10 basis points above the our benchmark, which is the 91-day Treasury bill. And again, there's no action on this item. And any questions?
Any questions? No. Thank you. No questions. We're going to go to item number 4, which is consideration and possible action on the Brownsville Public Utilities Board fiscal year 2022 operational and maintenance budget amendment.
Yes, on the legal fees year to date have continued to rise primarily due to some unanticipated matters that we've experienced. The cybersecurity incident, the BISD contract, the COB Tenasca audit, and litigation and bankruptcies. So our current amended budget is $1,525,746. Based on the year-to-date activity that we've seen and projections that we've received from some of the firms that represent us, we have determined that our year-to-date expected expenditures will be $1,796,228. This would require a budget amendment in the amount of $270,482 above the approved budget amount for FY22. The unanticipated matters that I mentioned are totaling $451,000 of the year-to-date spending on the legal fees. It represents 35% of the year-to-date spending. So with the current budget that we have in place, without this amendment, we would only be able to get to continue using legal services through the middle of August, through approximately August the 14th, if the amendment is not approved. So even at that $1,796,228 level, it would be 14.9% our FY21 actual level and 15.7% below our 4-year average. So we have tried to curtail those expenses, but we have these unforeseen activities that have increased our budget. So VPUB staff, the action on this item, VPUB staff recommends approval of an O&M budget amendment to increase the fiscal year 2022 legal budget in the amount of $270,482 to an amended legal budget amount not to exceed $1,796,228. Are there any?
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward, but as I have, I know John and I have had this conversation, I know they're working hard to shrink this legal, budget down a little bit, but I move forward that we pass it.
I can second. Or any other questions for me?
Do we have, do we have a plan, going forward, or are we working on something? I know we're going through the budgeting process right now. But this would be our second amendment, just
Right.
for legal. Is there anything in place or, you know, is there an opportunity perhaps to sit down with local, and think about a better approach, going forward, especially for, 2023?
Sure.
So that we work through this budgeting process, we don't have this repeat, itself, like I mean, this is the second year, right? We had this issue come up in 2021, having it again, 2022. This is now the second amendment. Any chance we can put together?
Oh, yes.
A better strategy here?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Before the budget's approved, we'll have a couple opportunities to discuss that with the board.
And I've been pretty vocal about staying on budget and, you know, the original budget and then the amended budget. So this isn't something I can support, and it's certainly nothing personal to our local council whatsoever or Mr. Davidson's firm, but I just think that, I really think that, you should be a lot more careful. And this kind of feels like blank check kind of behavior, and it's not something I can support personally.
I have to agree with the mayor, unfortunately, that we're in this situation for the reasons he stated.
So at this time, I mean, we have a motion.
I believe there was a second.
Is there a second?
And I'd like to just make a few comments on my motion, because I have been one that have been very vocal about this item. And convinced the administration can manage this a little bit better and shrink it. I won't get into what I feel, all the mechanics of this large building, but it's a tough one. I know we need to move forward, get it behind us. I'll stand with my motion.
Well, I think we need to move forward because we do need legal. We need legal to continue, at least to end the year, and then figure out what we're going to do. I mean, that's my suggestion or recommendation, because
Yeah.
will tie their hands if we do
Well-
not allow them to have any legal backup, whether it's local or Davidson's or anybody. I mean, what,
Yeah, and they're both on our special counsel and local counsel. There's pending litigation that's active right now. And at the very least, that would have to continue. There's no way, I don't think you want to stop the pending litigation that both our local counsel and Mr. Davidson's firms are involved with. So it's out there. If we were to not approve it, then we'd have some problems there.
Yeah, I think that the concern, John, is that it happened again, right? And I agree with what the mayor said. You know, we have a budget for a reason. Were there some unforeseen circumstances? Sure. But it kind of does feel like, you know, we have a budget, and then when we run through it, we just authorize the increase. So I'd want to see some sort of commitment. And again, I think maybe local council can help. And perhaps that's part of the responsibility or part of the agreement that we have with local council, that they support us in such a way that we try and stay within budget, right? And perhaps provide some advice as to how to best go about that. I don't know what the solution is, but it doesn't feel great to have to go through another amendment.
Right. And we do have some things, right? We've got a major project right now at the Port of Brownsville that we're looking at. We're met 2 weeks on it. We're going to meet this week. Tremendous project. Takes a lot of money and legal fees to be involved with that at that thing. Now, what we can do on that is, before we engage on that and come up with that what we need to do, we can bring it to the board. Do we want to get involved with this project?
Yeah.
Because if we don't
The,
and pursue it, we come back with a pretty good budget of what they're going to spend on legal fees. And it impacts the budget because it wasn't known a month ago.
Yeah, I think, so my thought, and I'm not an expert on legal fees and not, obviously not an attorney, so I may be, this may be illogical, but it feels like the most significant component of our budget and legal fees is special counsel here. And so not local counsel. So perhaps local counsel can help us with a strategy to best utilize special counsel going, so that we can set up, recommended guidelines or outlines or budget, when we're moving forward, so that we know from the beginning, or we have and I don't know if that's, again, we've got several attorneys here and they can probably do a better job making those suggestions. But just going out there and having, a blank check as far as what we're spending or how many hours we're dedicating to it, maybe we can be a bit more efficient with that.
Okay.
yeah, I agree. Better where we are now than when we were a year ago, because at least we're getting advised of this as we go. But I have to agree with Patricio that, and the mayor, that our only repercussion, our only option at this point, even is potentially say no. And if the answer is, well, then we won't get legal, then we're at an impasse. That's not the issue that I have in front of me. I don't think any of us are saying that. I think we need cost optimization and an immediate plan to make that happen. And we need to see that as soon as possible. And we need to see some real answers to that. I'm not asking anybody to go without legal. Of course, that's preposterous. It'd be like asking us to run a water treatment plant without water. But I think this is the only way we have of continuing to turn the screws and apply a little bit more heat to what we clearly think is an urgent issue. I think we're all of us on the same page. It's just the fact that we have different pain thresholds from month to month, even as to how attuned we are to the problem. Again, just like Patricio, I'm not an attorney. I don't know how flexible the cost is or how elastic this issue is. I'm not even an economist. I'm not sure if that's the right term. But I do know, I think we all stand on that point pretty strongly. And I think you're going to continue to see more pushback from some of us unless we get some real answers.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions, concerns? Well, we do have a motion on the table, so do I have a second or? No second? I don't know what would happen in this case, so if motion denied?
Counsel?
It dies? All right. All right, well, then we move forward then. So no decision, do I have to?
One of them we can put on the back burner. Two of them we cannot, because they're set for trial. We have depositions that are being scheduled and discovery that's being done. So we're going to have to continue to incur attorney's fees to represent PUB in these lawsuits. And we can't work for free either. So.
I don't think, yeah.
We have to keep doing the work in order to get the cases ready for trial.
Well, then let me ask, is there a way to make a motion or amend the motion so that our local council can determine what is
Well, and
necessary?
the problem is Mr. Davidson's office also has pending
pending lawsuits in PUC, so.
Sure, but those could be reviewed by local to determine what is necessary, absolutely
What has to be
necessary and
done.
what is not.
I think once we made the motion and the motion died,
Sure, but.
We can remake it.
You can make another
Mhm.
motion. I mean, it's still an item on the agenda. There could be a different motion.
The chair could even call it back, right? I mean, decide it back later. If necessary.
I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
the board is aware that we're gonna have to have some attorney's fees.
When are your trials
before
set
the
for?
end.
let me make a new motion, please. Addressing, auditors, perhaps I can make a motion that we move forward to address all litigation that is pending. And that is, what is the word I'm looking for, dire? That's pending on timelines to address.
Well, but I mean, you still have to amend the budget, and I mean, that's not gonna, I don't know how that would work.
I think the item, right, at least the concern is, you can amend the budget. How is it not a blank check going forward, right? So amending the budget and then saying, great, we're gonna go through 100% of that.
Well,
Um,
and I mean, that's certainly not ever our intention, and we don't, despite the comments, we don't consider this to be a blank check. We're doing what we've been asked to do and what we think is in the best interest of PUB. So, but there are things that have to be done for the litigation.
Is
So, I
Mr.
mean,
Davidson on? Can we hear?
Yes, he's.
Mr. Davidson? Any comments on this?
John, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Now?
Yes, yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. First thing, we're in the same position that the local council is. We have numerous proceedings at the Public Utility Commission, which are now pending, including some of them are applications of Brownsville businessmen to change our certificate of convenience and necessity so that we can serve them with their businesses. Those are in progress. They usually take about 90 days. We stop within, of course, like Marjorie said, we just have to stop and try to withdraw, I guess. But another point I think we ought to point out here is that you should consider really what you're getting, the value for your services that you're spending. For example, I'll just take one item that happened this year. We were able to increase your T cost, your transmission cost of service sufficiently, 41%. We increased your rate to 13% return on it. And my guess is, Monica, I don't have the figures in front of me, that alone paid for the whole legal budget for everybody. I'm not sure that that's true, but my guess is, based on our percentage of the grid, that it probably did. So, when you talk about cost, there's also, well, what did I get for my money? And another serious thing going on now, of course, is the audit by the city. That is taking 27% of our budget. And so the reason that we're up, and I'll give you a specific example, just before the 4th of July, we got 16 special requests from the auditor for the city. That caused right before the 4th of July. So, all right, we had to have people in to work through the 4th of July, part of the 4th of July, to meet the deadlines that the auditor from the city wanted. So that is a major cause of Davidson, Troilo, Freeman, Garza's additional expenses. If you really look at what's been done so far through the year, certainly the value of it exceeds the cost. And I don't know how you set a legal budget, you throw a dart, but it would seem you would look at year to year what it's been. I think our budget has been over $1 million at least since 1950. And because of what people asked for us to do. We do not do anything unless we were requested to do. And I found that the staff has got better and better and better in being able to do things that otherwise they would have called, a lawyer to do. If you look at just this year in the fiscal year, look at the decrease in our fees, that's been about 30%. And that only happened because we have worked with the staff of BPUB so that we could make that reduction. Okay, we maybe didn't make it enough to satisfy the last number that was thrown out, but we don't make those numbers. We have, as I said, no input in them. We're here to serve you. We have done it for 50 years tonight. And maybe that's an awful long time, but we did it because we were able to return more value than you paid us. And that's the bottom line. And that's continuing. So, you do what you want to tonight. I mean, you're the board, you make the decisions. But I think you ought to consider, what did I get? If the budget's overrun, what was spent for the overrun? And then what was the value we got out of it? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Well, Margie, I think I need how I can proceed.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to make another motion. I mean,
I'd like to make a new motion that we move forward, but we reduce the amount that's currently being requested, which is $270,000 and $482. I'm going to recommend that we approve half of that, which is approximately $135,000. Give the administration a little bit of time to analyze their legal needs moving forward. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Is there any further discussion, Madam Chair?
Oh, sorry.
Is there any further discussion on that issue from anybody?
Anybody else has any other questions? I'm sorry. Comments, thoughts?
Sorry.
I'm guessing that depending on how much this is kind of covered, we'll see you again to discuss this further.
We're going to apply it to litigation, no other work.
I'm sorry?
We're going to apply what you're approving to litigation. That's it. There'll be no other work.
I don't think that was part of the motion, but that's up to you.
Well, I'm just saying, there's not enough to do the litigation coverage in any other work. So I'm going to make sure we get the litigation covered. And if there's extra, we'll use that, but that's what we're going to use it for both firms.
That information can be detailed to us. That'll help us make decisions moving forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've got to cover that component of the business first. The rest of it can wait till next year.
Okay. Are we all clear? Any other
Clear.
questions or thoughts?
Call the question.
Okay, so I've got a motion. I've got presented by Mr. Rendon, second by Dr. Benavides. So if I can move forward, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
You, okay. So the motion still carries.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We're going to move over to item number 5, which is consideration and possible action on commercial paper funding adjustments to reimburse expenditures for electric, water, and wastewater capital improvement projects for the period of July 22 through September 2022.
This is a routine quarterly item that we present. This is for authorization for capital improvement projects funded through the commercial paper program. So we are requesting for this quarter, for the period of July 1st through September 30th, under the electric utility, $1,349,811, $565,277 under water, and $262,024 under wastewater. The recommended action be Pub staff recommends approval of commercial paper funding adjustments for the electric, water, and wastewater capital improvement projects for the period of July 2022 through September 2022 for a quarterly total of $2,177,112 and an overall total of $12,919,263.
Any questions?
The motion that we move forward with that recommendation.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go to item number 6. Consideration and possible action for bid award for the annual supply of electrical inventory material.
Good evening, Chair and board member. My name is Hugo Lopez. I'm the purchasing administrator. The agenda item number 6, we have 2 casting a lot. For line item number 67 for Wesco or Stuart C. Irby.
Stuart C. Irby.
And line item 98 for KBS Electric or Wesco Distribution.
KBS Electric.
The recommended action, BPV staff recommends approval of the bid award for the annual supply of the electrical inventory material to the low bidders meeting the specification as follows. Sun Enterprise of Blanco, Texas, in the amount of $4,957.50. Trayer Engineering of San Leandro, California, in the amount $293,799. Transfer of Richardson, Texas, in the amount of $730,718. Techline of San Antonio, Texas, in the amount of $125,332.90. Christian Mel and Lincolnson of San Antonio, Texas, in the amount of $61,080. KBS Electric of Austin, Texas, in the amount of $747,295.50. Wesco Distribution of San Antonio, Texas, in the amount of $576,382.95. Stuart C. Irby of Bastrop, Texas, in the amount of $856,241.66. And Texas Electric Co-op, Georgetown, Texas, in the amount of $111,101, plus the casting lot in the amount of $1,144 for the grand total amount not to exceed $3,508,052.51.
Any questions?
Make a recommendation that we move forward.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're going to go to item number 7, which is a consideration and possible action to approve the renewal of the annual supply of fuel.
For agenda item number 7, the recommended action, DPW staff recommends approval to renew the contract for the annual supply of fuel for an additional 1-year period to Oil Patch Fuel and Supply of Brunswick, Texas, for the grand total amount not to exceed $846,392.85.
Any questions from the board? Can we entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion
you.
carries. We're going to go to item number 8, which is consideration and possible action for bid award for annual supply of water and plant power plant chemicals.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Jaime Estrada. I'm the Director of Operational Support Services. PUB staff is recommending the bid award for the annual supply of chemicals to the low bidders, meeting specifications as follows. Air Gas Specialty Products Incorporated in the amount of $277,000. Univar Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $211,075. Cabot Norit Americas Incorporated in the amount of $244,800. DPC Industries in the amount of $865,136. And Evoca Water Technology LLC in the amount of $234,000 for a grand total amount not to exceed $1,832,011. We recently had this, one of these similar board item approved by the SOW board, and one of the board members had some questions on the comparison in cost of last year's and this year's. So I want to give you a couple of those chemicals so you can see the difference in cost. On the anhydrous ammonia, for example, last year with the bid was 70 cents per pound. This year came in at $1.90. The powder activated carbon is another one. It's 54.5 cents per pound. And this year it came in at $1.02 per pound. And the chlorine, that's the big one. It's $139 per ton. It came in at $2,224 per ton this year. So just a few for you for comparisons. They're coming in. So, and the vendors did warn us about this increase in cost. So we did make a registered budget for that this year.
This year, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did you say chlorine went from $200?
No, it went from $839 a ton to $2,224 per ton. Yeah. Big increase.
Substantial.
We need it though.
If there's no other questions, can I entertain a motion?
Go move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're going to go to item number 9, which is consideration and possible action for proposal award for the purchase of 11 145 kV high voltage breakers.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Cesar Cortinas, Director of T&D for BPUB. Engineering staff, along with the substation laying staff, identified the purchase of 11 circuit breakers. These 10 circuit breakers will be replaced along the several BPUB substations. These breakers were virtually purchased back in 2005 when we upgraded the system from 69 to 138. So all of these were bought at the same time. And it happens that mitigations due to common operations, operating mechanism failures, and the replacement of parts scarcity, and the manufacturer not responding responsiveness to request the service and support. So in general, these breakers are part of the bulk electrical systems as part of the ERCOT transmission grid. As usual, a limitation for proposal was advertised in the Brownsville Herald. 11 vendors were emailed with 2 responding, and the staff did evaluate the proposals and identified Texas Electric Co-op as the most responsive vendor based on price, specifications, stock availability, time of delivery, and previous performance with the BPUB. BPU staff recommends approval of proposed award to purchase 11 high voltage breakers from Texas Electric Co-op from Georgetown, Texas, for a total amount not to exceed $776,980. Any questions?
Questions from the board? If I could entertain a motion?
So move.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to item number 10.
Yeah.
Or do I need to read that or?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So presentation, discussion, and possible action on a customer petition requesting overhead to underground circuit conversion.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm asking if we could table this item for 1 month. We need some additional information before I want to bring this to the board. We're okay with that.
Make a motion on the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second. I'm sorry, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we're going to go ahead and go go into closed meeting. The items will be item number 1, meeting with board's legal counsel for advice about contemplated and pending court and administrative litigation and on matters in which the duty of the attorney under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct conflicts with Chapter 551, Section 511071, including but not limited to the legal issues related to bankruptcy of vendor HDI and status of suit in the Texas Attorney General to protect BPUB competitive documents. Number 2 is a presentation of information upon pricing of purchase power, generation, and fuel, and their impact upon the fuel, purchased energy and marketing charge, and possible discussion, Section 551.086. And number 3 is a discussion of real estate matters. If I could get a motion to go into closed meeting? So moved. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I agree.
Yeah, speak up louder, right?
So, yeah. Oh.
John, are we ready or? Yes?
I wish.
So at this time, we concluded our closed meeting. We're going to go to items for individual consideration, number 11. Consideration and possible actions on items discussed in closed meeting. There was none at this time. And we're going to go to number 12, with discussion and or request for future agenda items. No? So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So move. Second. Everybody say, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not too bad. Oh, can you go later?
But, you know,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.